I think it's silly if they do a trilogy. I really don't think that it's great for entertainment purposes. Like, it's one thing to have a trilogy years down the road or after the other contentions have been made, but I think the smartest move, regardless of whether it was kind of controversial or not, is to wait for Manon versus Aaron. I think that Aaron's going to end up winning that, and I think she should fight for the title next.
Great seeing my next guest back in action. She's going to be taking on Andrea Lee, UFC 298, February 17th. It is right around the corner. It's Miranda Maverick back here on the program. Miranda, how are you?
I'm doing great. Ready for the fight. Starting to get skinny this week.
There you go. Well, we're looking forward to it. Now, I wanted to start this off. Like, I know you've done, or you train at Elevation Fight Team. I know that, or out in Colorado, I know it's kind of like a hybrid thing that you got set up there. Did you and Andrea ever train together? I was always wondering about that.
Not here in Denver, but I've trained with Andrea a few times. Actually, up in Michigan when we had the female mega camp, it was funny because they're making a new one of those that's going to be this year too, and they posted a picture of me and her as like the front runner for it, and I was like, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But we trained together there and just did a lot of drilling together and technical sparring, and then I also trained with her down in Vegas for a couple of days when Aspen Ladd was getting ready for a fight and had us both come out. I think it was back when I was getting ready for my Macy Barber fight, so we sparred a few times then. So we've crossed paths several times. We're acquaintances. We've done meet and greets at the same time together, stuff like that.
Gotcha. So I'm assuming no hesitation. It's not like you guys are like really good friends and you talk all the time, right? In terms of taking the fight?
Right. No, not only was there no hesitation, I'm the one who reached out to her and said, hey, let's get this fight going. And we both agreed to it and texted Mick.
Oh, cool. Okay, this happened. Which fight was this that this happened as well, where you guys talked about it on social media? Was it Jasmine? I was trying to remember which fight it was where you guys. Yeah.
Jasmine is the one that I called out like on Twitter and tagged her, but I didn't have like Jasmine's personal number. I just like messaged her on Instagram and then on Twitter. But Andrea, I had her actual number and reached out to her. And I've asked her a few times if she wanted to fight, and it's just always not worked out because Mick's gotten a different opponent, or the timing didn't work out for us, or one of us was already booked and didn't know it because it wasn't public yet.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Do you feel like the matchmaker should give you a share of their paycheck when you do this? Because like you did all the work, right? They just have to actually schedule it.
Right, exactly. At least give us the credit, post about it. Be like, this got made because of them.
These two women willing to fight. Yeah, exactly. That's great. And I imagine I imagine as far as fighting her, just the rankings and all that, it kind of makes sense. Is that sort of the reason why you wanted this fight?
Yeah, the rankings make sense. She's always been a little bit of a step ahead of me ever since I started in Invicta. She was a little bit higher up in Invicta. Then I got higher up in Invicta and she went to the UFC and so on and so on. So it's about time that we fought. I've been trying to for a while. And regardless of what streak she's on, everybody's giving her crap because of her 3-fight losing streak, I think it is. And it's like, yeah, but those weren't any scrubs. They're all some of the top girls. And I could argue that she beat Macy as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. We haven't seen you in a bit. Your last fight, I believe, was in July. I know you had the back-to-backs, right? So obviously, a little bit of short time in between the last two fights. But why haven't we seen you? I imagine you didn't want to be out this long.
No, I didn't want to be out this long. It's all about the matchmakers. People don't realize, especially the kind of casual fans, so to speak, don't understand that most fighters don't have any say in when they get to fight, especially when we're not in the top 5 or champions or anything, or buddy buddies with anyone. And I'm not. And so I've just been sitting on the sidelines waiting and waiting and waiting for a fight.
Obviously, Andrea, very tough fighter in terms of, she's tough to finish. And obviously, I know you like getting a lot of your wins by finish. You don't get paid by the hour. Why not? But stylistically, how are you looking at this fight?
It's great. I think they were both pretty well-rounded. She's been working on her wrestling a ton, even though she's known for her striking. I think we've seen that in her last couple of fights, regardless of how it concluded. And I'm ready to go in there and just show it all the way around. I plan on overwhelming her on the feet. And as a result, I wouldn't doubt if she's going to try to shoot on me, because I've shown weakness in like the Aaron Blanchfield fight and even my Jasmine fight when I was hurt, that like the wrestling wasn't my strong suit at the time, which is always funny because I'm like, well, wrestling actually is a strong suit of mine. Just Aaron's very good and Jasmine took advantage when I was basically hurt in survival mode. So I wouldn't doubt if she'll try to shoot, and I plan on capitalizing on that and end up defeating her on the ground as well. So I don't know if it's going to be via TKO or submission, but I'm looking for both of them via ground and pound or submission.
Who have been some of the main training partners this camp helping you get ready for this one?
Yeah, well, Raquel at the beginning of camp before she was getting ready for the title fight, which she won, of course. Rose Namajunas was also out here for the first part of my camp, was sparring with her until a couple weeks ago. And Caitlin Chukagian came out all the way from New York to train with me. She's getting ready for her Macy Barber fight. So I was the perfect partner for her. And then she was the perfect partner for me with her length and more like lengthy, voluminous striking. So that was great to have her out. Amazing training partner. And then, of course, the smaller guys that work with me a lot that are training partners, and a few of the other girls.
That's good. Have you and Rose talked about, obviously you're in the same division now. Is that something that has been brought up? Like, hopefully you don't have to fight. I mean, obviously she's in a bit of a different situation.
Yeah, a bit of a different situation. It hasn't even been brought up. It's never really came into question at all. We just kind of slap gloves and go every time we train.
How did you and Caitlin end up training together? Was it like, did you reach out or she reached out to you? How did that work?
She actually reached out to me and was like,
Nice.
"Hey, is there any chance I could come out there and train with you guys? I knew you trained out in Denver with a lot of the other ladies, and because of my Macy Barber fight, she wanted to come out and train with me, and we figured out a schedule, and I got back to her sooner than some of the other girls out here, and so she came out primarily training with me every day, almost all of my training sessions. It was awesome having her out."
Weight cut's going well. I know you had plenty of notice for this fight, and you've been off for a while too. So I'm sure, like, lots of time to kind of prep for that.
Oh yeah, lots of time to prep. I don't really have trouble with my weight cuts anymore. As you know, I take short notice fights, so I stay lean, I stay ready, and so it's just now starting to be that I have to kind of cut my calories down because I stay lean all the time anyway, usually under 140. This time I actually beefed up a little bit when Caitlin came out here because she was a little bigger than me, so stayed a little heavy a little longer, and now I'm back down below 140, and I'll just slowly start dieting from here, and then that last week have a cut.
Your corner, what will that look like? Who's going to be in the cage with you?
Almost the same people as always. Elliot Marshall would be my head coach, and then I have Justin Houghton, who is the head of all my striking, and he owns Pound for Pound Muay Thai out here, and then my dad.
Awesome. That sounds good. And you mentioned it there, probably going to see a finish. How do you see this one unfolding?
And TKO via ground and pound or submission, but it's going to end on the ground, and I wouldn't doubt if it ends up being third round. I plan on going in there and just smashing her up the first little while. And like you said, she's a tough girl, so I don't expect to just go in there and be like, oh, easy peasy done. I expect it to be a war until that finish.
Andrea's obviously pretty notable in the division, ranked opponent. Where does a win sort of put you in the grand scheme of things? Because again, she has a lot of fights. I would imagine the UFC is going to factor that in.
Yeah, I would hope so. I hope to be in the ladder and stay there. I've been in the 13, 14, 15, and just keep getting bumped out or bumped back in, depending on who decides to make the rankings that week. Sometimes I'm in it, sometimes I'm not. So hoping to be in the solid top 15 at this point and keep moving my way up. I've always said I don't really care who they put in front of me. If they're unranked, I don't care. I'm getting paid the same whether I fight ranked or unranked. But I would like to start moving up the ladder this year, start getting into that top 10.
The top of your division, we don't really know what's going on. I mean, you'd assume that they're going to do Grasso and Shevchenko just because of the way the last fight ended. What do you think about sort of the title picture right now? I know probably not close for you yet, but is that something you kind of thought of as like how it's going to sort out? Because we also have that fight between Aaron Blanchfield and Manon Fiore as well.
I think it's silly if they do a trilogy. I really don't think that it's great for entertainment purposes. Like, it's one thing to have a trilogy years down the road or after the other contentions have been made. But I think the smartest move, regardless of whether it was kind of controversial or not, is to wait for Manon versus Aaron. I think that Aaron's going to end up winning that, and I think she should fight for the title next. And then whoever wins out of that fights Valentina, and so on and so forth, just so they mix up the division and keep it interesting. When they do trilogies 3 in a row, I feel like it just leads to stagnation within the whole division.
Yeah, and even the fans don't really like it that much because, like, for example, we had Davison Figueiredo Moreno. Like, they were great fights, but fans were kind of like, can't we get someone new in here, right? So I kind of agree with you on that sense as well. How do you think Aaron beats Manon? Obviously, very interesting fight, Manon. I don't believe she's been finished in the UFC. I don't actually think she's even lost. How do you sort of see that one playing out?
I think that Aaron will get it by submission. I really do think she can get a finish.
Downtime, what's that looking like during camp? I know you didn't get much of it, but what are you getting up to when you get that little bit of free time in camp and everything?
Well, it becomes not free time, right?
Yeah.
Anytime that I do have that I'm not training, I'm working for Hershey. And anytime that I'm not working for Hershey or training, I'm now doing my pickle business. So you've probably seen it on social media and everything. I've been starting a new small business of making pickles. It's prowlerpickles.com. Right now, all my sales pretty much are online. I ship anywhere in the US, Canada, Mexico, and I even have some that went over to the UK. Just got to message me for other places.
Why the name Prowler? Is it Prowler, you said?
Yep, Prowler, like the lion prowling around.
Oh, cool. Okay, gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
that's
the
kind of neat.
reason is my family and I basically just voted. We all came up with a bunch of different names, basically put them in a pot, and everybody voted their favorites. So I was going for Preppy Pickles, and I was going to make the pickle look like a little female version of like the M&M, except make it a pickle. But Prowler won out, so that's the way it went.
And what do you do for Hershey's again? Remind me.
So I'm a statistician. So
Oh, that's
technically, I'm
right.
a media marketing data analyst for them. So a little bit high up in that is a job that I could definitely make a living on outside of fighting if I wanted to.
That's great though. It kind of takes the pressure off, you know, because some fighters they need to fight right in order to make an income, but you've got this nice little base there, which is great.
Exactly. It takes out that desperation aspect, right? I always say that I can go in and risk it all for real when I fight because I don't really have to worry about not having anything to fall back on. If I lose, if I win, if I quit today, I'm going to have something else to do no matter what. So I'm able to go in there, have fun. And even though I'm putting it all out on the line technically, and I see it as my future that it's building, I don't have to worry about having nothing else.
Are they cool with you fighting and everything? Like, did they get it? I know some people. I remember when I worked in like a corporate job. I remember I had a boss who was like, the UFC was on TV, and they're like, "Oh, that's so brutal." Like, how do they treating you as an employee in that regard?
So my boss was actually a fan before he was my boss. He had already
There you
bought
go.
like a hat and a shirt for me and stuff. And he saw I was in grad school and messaged me on Instagram of all things and was like, "Hey, any chance you're looking for a job?" And so that's how that got started.
There you go. Fighting opening a lot of different doors, which is great. Miranda, thanks so much for doing this. We're looking forward to the fight. It's UFC 298, February 17th. Anyone you want to thank before we get out of here? Any sponsors, any social media? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I won't give them specific call outs, but all my sponsors are on my Instagram. If you guys go to the link in my bio, they've helped me a lot, all the way from filtered water to helping me with media marketing, to food to drinks. Just go help them out. Go look it up. You have promotion codes on there. Thank you to all my team members, teammates at Easton Training Center, and also at Pound for Pound Muay Thai, and the coaches that I have at Landau Performance in those two gyms as well. And also, if you guys want to support me, go to fearthemaverick.net to go get any kind of clothing, hats, autographed pictures, etc. I have clothing sizes, or sorry, I have kids sizes and clothing now as well. And you can also check out prowlerpickles.com and get yourself a pint or a quart of pickles.